Hey guys, it's me, Skylar, and I'm not here to brag about my hat. I'm here to tell you about my hat. Get it? Get it? Now it has my name. See? Skylar. So I'm a boss. I'm a boss, yeah. Hey, but I want to learn Spanish. So, like, I'm Spanish, like, I'm half, like half of it. But I still don't know Spanish. Don't know why. But I was looking at this Learn Spanish 1.1 greetings and introductions stuff. Introduction. So yeah yeah, just listen. Hold on.
Hello, and welcome to Learn Spanish on SpanishDicts.com. I'm Paralee Whitmire, your teacher. Today you'll be learning about basic introductions and greetings like conversation with a total stranger. So to say excuse me, you could say perdone, señor.
Perdone, señor.
If you were speaking to a man, perdone, señor. And if you were talking to a woman, you could say
Perdona, señorita.
perdone, señora.
Oh, okay.
Perdone, señora.
Yeah, that's not working out too good, but I learned how to say perdona, señor. Oh yeah, I'm smart. Okay, well, today's like a random video. It's Saturday, November 17th, 2012 at 4:06. Yeah. Oh, I want to show you guys something really interesting. Look at this. It's a wig. It's like, it has like brown blonde hair. And then, this is me when I was a baby. Right. Eep. I was right there. Oh yeah. It was gorgeous. And then, yeah, from the Rex, well, from theater camp this summer, I got our CD. I was in a play called Annie, and I was one of the main orphans. So, you can get your copy here. As it says, Annie. It's the best. Then I got my iPad. It's just like a plain case. But then, like, when you're studying or whatever, you'd be like, yeah, I'm studying. You're actually not. So, see? See, I'm like on the computer. So you can see. Shabam. Oh, and I'm gonna tell you guys what's gonna happen this year, sixth grade. It's gonna happen. And I'm gonna get a theme song. I'm gonna get like the words like on the like bottom that says my name, who came to the show, and like stuff like that. Yeah. Do you see that? How it went? It's like stuff like that. Oh. So yeah. A big shout out to my friend. Yeah. Cameron Williams. Cameron Williams. His birthday was like November 14th, and I didn't give him a birthday present. But wait until I go to school. I have the best present ever. It's a card. No, it's not a card. I have nothing for him. I'm so sorry. He didn't give me nothing for my birthday. So yeah. So you guys like later. Yeah. And so yeah. Have fun.